Did you know that 92% of people never achieve their New Year's resolutions? And what if you've got this all wrong? What if the thing holding you back is how you approach and how you think about your goals? Well, let's fix that today. Inshallah, in this video, I'm going to provide you 5 key things you need to do to set yourself up for success in 2025 and the future beyond, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, the first thing that needs to be addressed is your mindset. Before we even start on thinking about any journeys, we think about any goals, any ambitions, think of a moment where you are doing something and then you are like deeply down convinced that there is no benefit of doing this thing, that you are like, there is no end result I'm ever going to get with this particular thing. How was your conviction when you were doing this particular task? Were you like really motivated to get along with the task, or were you just like, I should quit at this point? Well, that is the first thing you need to address. You need, before embarking on any goal, I would say tackling or like handling any habits, building any habits, trying to achieve anything, you first need to have the belief that that particular thing that you are aiming for is actually doable and is actually, or whatever you want to achieve is actually achievable. Because if you do not believe that that thing is doable or it's achievable, then you are going to be in persistent conflict with yourself and your actions, because it's like fighting your own self. You're doing something that you are not convinced is going to bear something at the end of the day, and every single time you sort of bring yourself up to the task and put in the action, you kind of experience a very huge conflict with your subconscious mind, and you constantly ask yourself, is this worth it? Is this going to bear something at the end of it all? Is this going to be fruitful? And that kind of conflict isn't something you want at the beginning of the year, isn't something you want to be having in terms of mindset when it comes to handling and tackling your goals. Now, people usually say that seeing is believing. That's why people create vision boards, that's why people create mood boards, people create, so many things. But one thing I would ask you to do as a pro tip in terms of directing and shifting your mindset is to try and look around for people who have already done whatever you want to do, or people who have already achieved whatever you want to achieve. And this is very simple. You could just go on social media. If you don't have social media, the better, or like, it's still doable. You could just go on Google, search whatever it is you want to look up to, or like whatever it is you want to do. For example, let's say it's becoming a doctor. Search the best surgeon in the world, the best physician in the world, the best dermatologist in the world, something like around that. And that picture, go to the images section, and you're going to see several thousands of images of whatever you're going to put up as a search. And this is just a reminder that whatever you are aiming for is doable. If, for example, you want to have a car, for example, you want to have a watch, for example, you want to have a very beautiful house, you want to have this, you want to have that, just go over and Google and search that particular thing. Look for those things and constantly see them, constantly visit these websites, constantly be in those particular places. Even better, if you want to be a certain type of person, then you need to get yourself to get into certain types of communities. For example, joining broadcast channels on Instagram, joining broadcast channels on Telegram, being part of community members of YouTube, being part of this, being part of that. This is very important because it allows you to kind of involve all your senses in everything in terms of redirecting your mindset. Because if you see it, you can't believe it. And if you can even more touch it, you can even more believe it, that it's doable and it's achievable. So the first thing you need to do is actually believe that whatever you're aiming for, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be is doable and is achievable. And a great way to do this is to actually be around those places, be around those people, and actually look for such kind of things that constantly remind you of wherever you want to be as a person. The next thing you need to do is to change your identity. And just relax, guys. I'm not asking you to go and change your names or anything. It's just how you identify yourself as a person. Identify yourself as the person who is already doing whatever they want to do, and the person who has already what they want to have. In very simple sense, maybe let's look at an example of a student who wants to be very good at the academics, and a good personality or a good identity to embody at this particular point of your journey is to tell yourself that I am an excellent student. So every single time you're faced with a decision that involves studying, you sort of ask yourself, what would an excellent student do? This does a lot of things to your subconscious mind, and it also does a lot of wonders to the actions that you take. Because number one, when you constantly ask yourself, what would a person in X path do? What would a person in a fitness journey do? What would a person in, for example, a wealthy person do? What would a person who is memorizing the Quran will do? What would a person doing this do? What would a person with thing X be doing at time X? If you have that kind of approach to how you identify yourself, it's going to open up two main doors for you. And number one, it's going to remove a lot of conflict between your actions and your thoughts, because if you already believe, if you already identify as someone who is doing that particular thing, someone who is on that journey, then it becomes easier for you to do the actions that whatever these people kind of do to get themselves to wherever they are. But then on the other hand, it also opens up a lot of opportunity for you to improve yourself, because in the process of asking yourself what will a person with good financial habits be doing with their income is going to let you reach a place where you wouldn't know what to do with your income. And that is where it brings me to point number 3, learning. Now, if someone you know told you that they want to become a doctor or a software engineer, for example, do they become a software engineer by virtue of them saying so? Or do they become a software engineer by virtue of them going to school, learning about software engineering, or like embarking on a course, a digital course anywhere, or the digital platforms, and going through the process of actually learning the things that make you a software engineer and doing the things that actually make you a software engineer? And if someone, again, told you they want to be a doctor, they become a doctor by just saying like, I want to become a doctor, and then the next thing they're a doctor. Or they go to medical school and they find themselves going through the 5-6 years of the tremendous work there is in medical school, and finally pass all the exams, and finally at the end of it, they become the doctors they've always wanted to be. Now, consider yourself as well. You're telling yourself that I want to become a financially responsible person, I want to become an excellent student, I want to be this, I want to have this. Now, would someone just become whoever they want to be by virtue of them saying they want to be that? No. Then you should have the same approach to your goals, to your ambitions, to whatever you want to have, and constantly ask yourself, now going back to the identity that you had. If, for example, you're already identifying yourself as someone who is in a fitness journey, then you ask yourself, what would someone in a fitness journey do? And then you find yourself you don't know what to do. There is where the process of learning comes in. People who end up achieving their goals are in a constant loop of improvement, constant loop of learning new tricks, improving little bits of the process that makes the end result easier and more efficient to achieve, and even more importantly, make the process of achieving whatever they want to achieve smoother and even more enjoyable. Now, you need to approach your goals in this kind of setting as well. Do not just work with whatever you have. Make it a conscious effort to learn and improve in terms of the process, in terms of whatever information you have. Because the more you know, the better decisions you're able to make. The more you know, the better you're able to do something, the more efficiently you're able to achieve something X. And even more, sometimes people normally say that you need knowledge to be able to multiply and sustain whatever you already achieved. So even if you've achieved whatever you've achieved, of course, you need to go back to the process of getting you there and ask yourself, like, what did I do to get this? And probably you will have unlocked a new level, or like you will have this new thing that you previously didn't have. Of course, maybe the next step that you're aiming for isn't to have the similar thing, but maybe to sustain it and to maintain it, or like to just multiply it, for example. And the ways that got you there most likely are in the same ways that are going to sustain you in the future. A pretty much basic and simple example is when you think about studies in uni. In high school, you could be behaving or like approaching studies towards a certain or a particular way and think that that is working for you. Well, that's very much okay, because high school and university are kind of different situations. Then you pass high school, as most of you who are watching this video already have, Mabruk alaikum, and you kind of think and approach studies at university level with the same kind of approach that you had in high school, and that is where a lot of conflict comes by. Well, it's safe to say that these two areas, you're still the same person, but the information that you're learning from these two areas is different, and you need different approaches to kind of keep you afloat at every level. And considering the university level being a little bit higher, you need to kind of tweak your approaches and learn a few new tricks to be able to sustain and maintain a very good and healthy academic journey along your university path. Now, it's very important for you to just get into the process of just learning about the process. For example, let's say you've already identified yourself as someone who is into fitness, and you kind of ask yourself, what do people in fitness do? You tell yourself that people in fitness are pretty much consistent. They show up every single maybe 5 or 6 times in the gym. They are consistent with whatever they eat. They're consistent with their sleeping habits. They're consistent with their drinking water habits. They're consistent with all other healthy habits. Now, again, you find yourself showing up. You find yourself that you're doing these things. But then at the end of the day, or at the end of the month, at the end of this at the end of the quarter of the year, you find yourself that you're not achieving, or like you're not seeing any results. Well, a good approach would be to ask yourself, like, take a step back and ask yourself, like, what am I doing right and what am I doing wrong? And I think this is something that doesn't require you to actually wait up until where you're not seeing results. It's something that should accompany you while you are doing the thing. As you are trying to become fit, also learn about how to become fit, because it's not just important for you to show up consistently, it's important that you show up consistently doing the right thing rather than just doing anything and thinking that you are taking a step towards the right direction. Now, the fourth thing that you need to do is tiny actions. Now, sit down with your goals, both the big long-term goals and the short-term goals, and ask yourself this very important question. What can I do today? What can I do right now that will bring me closer to these goals? As cliche as it sounds, it's a very important question because of two major reasons. Number one, it gets you out of the bubble of thinking that and obsessing over your goals and thinking of how big they are and how maybe minute or like small they are to even not make a significance, or something big enough that it seems almost unattainable or not achievable. Now, the other thing that this does is actually the main whole purpose of this video. It's that it drives the action out of you. It makes you think in that particular moment, in that particular minute, in the next 5 minutes, what can you do to get yourself closer to that particular goal? And if you look at it, knowing everything else that you need to know, or like having all the information that you have, identifying as the person that you need to identify as in order to achieve your goals, having the correct mindset, having the correct knowledge isn't enough if at all you are not going to take the action. And sometimes this can be a very, very big thing, and something that people do, I would say, overly put a lot of emphasis on, because people see the goal, people see the end result, and people think, wow, being a millionaire, wow, being a trillionaire, having a very big house, having a very big car, well, having a very big YouTube channel. And maybe try and tone it down a little bit to this particular question. What can I do in this next minute, in this next 5 minutes, in the next hour, in the next day, in the next month that can get me towards or closer to this particular goal? If you think a bit about it that way, it sort of tones down so many things and it boils it down to actually doing the work, because people usually say a lot of people know more than you know, but some people just don't end up getting the result because they simply just do not do the work. And if you be the person who does the action, you are way, way better than the person who knows everything but they're not doing anything. It's kind of like talent and hard work. Like the person who has the talent, of course, maybe they're going to achieve something by virtue of their talent. But the person who works really hard and last man standing and they put in all the effort, at some point, at some level, the person with the hardest work they are going to win. Now, I'm not an advocate for like complete hard work. Of course, we need to have move smartly, and that's where every other point in the video comes in, and I really hope you guys are listening and tagging along up until this point. Now, the final thing that you need to do is to create an accountability system. All these efforts, all the things that you do without constant monitoring and constant evaluation of the process are just going to fall off. You need to have a system that reminds you of where you're coming from, what you're doing, and where you want to be. And there's so many levels to this. This could look like having a to-do list on your weekly planner where you keep track of all the daily activities that you do to get yourself closer to your goals. And by the way, guys, this is a weekly planner that I personally crafted and I use every single day to get ahead with my goals. You can check it out in the link in the description box below. It could also look like having an accountability partner, an accountability buddy, where you do most things together. You keep each other accountable and you keep each other on track. You do regular check-ins and make sure that each and every single one of you is on track to whatever journey they're currently on. Well, for me personally, I've found that both systems help, where I have my own to-do list and I also have accountability partners where we do regular check-ins and check up on each other and see what we're doing, and if at all the actions we are currently doing are heading towards the right directions and are going to make us achieve whatever we want to achieve. This is so important because it ensures that you stay on track and just keep the focus and the direction on the most important thing, which is achieving your goals. Let me know in the comment section down below your biggest goal for 2025, and I will catch you guys in the next video, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.